Now that I have some cool animations going on, it is time to code the game so that it will work. Now, in order to start our code, we of course need to create a new layer, and that will be our actions layer. So let's go down to layers, click on new layer, and double click on that layer and call it actions. And that we can also make sure it's on the very top. Now, we're going to create two functions first, and that is a function for our left player hitting and a function for our right player hitting. So in our action script, I'm going to go ahead and lock that layer real quick as well. I'm going to create my first function. Function hit left, and I don't really need any arguments of this function, but I do need to create the syntax for the arguments. And I'm going to go ahead and put in the curly bracket, so I have to start at the curly bracket and the curly bracket, and then I can go up in between. Now, the hit left is going to be for the left player, so we can insert the target for that left player by finding him in the list here. So there's the left player underscore MC, and we'll click OK. So this dot left player underscore MC dot go to and play, and it needs to play the hit section of that particular movie clip. If we take a look at our code here, at our character here, you'll see that he has that hit section inside him. So we're going to make that section play when we run this function. Let's go back to the code. Now, our ball also has some code. So if I can find the ball here, I'm going to click on that ball when I can get there. Let's see, I need to make sure I'm at a keyframe. And make sure that the ball also has that hit section, because I'd also like that to run at the same time. So I'm going to insert another line by copying this and inserting it on the next line down, and I'm going to change this dot left player to the ball underscore MC. And let's just make sure that that is the correct instance name. You can do that by checking the keyframes for your ball right there and going to your properties and making sure that that is the proper name. Because if it's not the right one, then of course it's not going to work. So go back to that function. And so there's the hit left function. Now I'm also going to create a function for hit right. So let's copy that function. The next line down, we'll paste it, and we'll change everything from left to right. That will be the right player. And the ball underscore MC is going to be the same. So let's make sure that we have the right name. So that is left player and that is right player. And it does seem as though we do have the correct names for everything. Now, in order to use these functions, all we have to do is instantiate that function when we want them. So I'm going to go to the first place that we're going to instantiate our code, and that's going to be at the hit here. If I go to this first hit, you'll see this is the time that the right player is going to hit. So I'm actually going to put the code to make these the functions run actually on these keyframes that I have here. So I'll go to that keyframe, and this will be the right, or is it hit right? It might be. Let me paste that in. It's hit right. Okay, so it's hit right. I just have to make sure that I am putting the right thing. And then that will actually run that hit right function. Now, when I want to use that same function again, I can go to the next place that he hits on the right hand side and paste that exactly again. So hit right again. Now, let me go to the left one, and that's where I need hit left because the left player is hitting. So there's only 1, 2, 3 hits during this whole animation. So instead of hit right, we'll change this to hit left. So those are the names of the functions, and we do want to make sure that the functions that we have here are the same things as the functions that we are creating later. And this is the difference between when you create a function and then when you are using a function. So this is instantiating the function. And you do want to be aware of when you have your keyframes here. You'll see the keyframe has the A, so that's when we're creating the functions. And the functions are available from the beginning of the timeline, and then I'm instantiating them or running them at these other keyframes. Then, when I get to right here to frame 75, currently, you'll know that the ball is going off, and so we need to create a new function here to have to create the score, make the score update. Now we could create a new keyframe on the actions layer. That would be just fine. So I can insert a new keyframe here, and on this keyframe I'm going to change the text of this text item, the left text item, because actually no, it's the right text item because that's where the right player has made a score. So there's something that I found out though. We're going to test this and it's actually going to create a problem. It's not going to work, and I'm going to show you why it's not working. So this is just something to be aware of when you're doing this type of dynamic text. My dynamic text field is called scoreWrite_MC. So at this frame, let's make sure that we're on the right actions layer. I am going to indicate that particular item. Let's see, that is the scoreWrite_txt. So it says this dot scoreWrite_txt dot text equals, and then I can put in quotation marks a 1. And so that should update that score with the dynamic text field by setting the text, which is a method, to just 1. Now, what will happen though when we test this is that that might go blank, and I'll show you that why here in just a minute. So we're now ready to test our scene. The animation, of course, extends beyond frame 75, and that's so that we have a little bit of length of time for a pause before it goes on to the next game, which is really good. You wouldn't want it to just jump to the next game immediately, because you have to have a chance for, after it's updated that score, you have to have a chance for you to see that the score has been updated. Anyway, let's go ahead and test this again, but this time we're going to test just this scene by going to Control Test Scene or Control Alt Enter. This way we'll skip the first scene. Now you'll see in the output that I get a warning, and I'm going to need to replay this again. And this warning right now is telling me that I have duplicate frame labels, and that's because of these hit frame labels, and you don't need to worry about that since we're not actually going to those. Those are just comments at this point, so it's not really going to affect the interactivity. Anyway, here's the animation. You can see the animation is happening, and he's hitting, then he's swinging, and then he's swinging again, and the ball is changing just a little bit. It might be nice to have the animation of the ball when it hits be a little bit more obvious than a glow around it. What I'm doing, maybe it'd be good to have like a smack effect or something. But we're going to add some sound to it later, so that will change it. But also you'll notice that the score disappears. Well, the score is disappearing because of a font issue. And if I select my two scores here, I want you to see that I'm using Trebuchet MS. And I don't know why, but that particular font does not like to be updated using dynamic text. It just doesn't show. So I'm going to change it to Arial instead, and I can still use bold. And I'm going to go to character embedding and make sure that I'm doing the numbers. You might be on basic Latin, but we're going to use numerals instead. So that just makes a little bit less memory. And let's test this scene again and see if it works better. So now you'll see that that score has updated here on the right-hand side. So that's a font issue, and why that font issue is there, I really don't know, but it is something that happens in Flash, and it's one more reason that Flash is always a pain to learn. Anyway, you'll notice that this game works pretty well, and so the animations inside each character and each element allows us to use ActionScript, of course, to make those animations run. And of course, what we would be doing if we were programming a real game is that we wouldn't have a timeline here, but we'd be moving around our characters by using keyboard interaction, pressing up or down, and then maybe our mouse going up and down, and then clicking to make it run the hit cycle. So it's a slight variation to go from what we have here, which is a self-running game, to an actual real game. The structure is pretty much the same. The only difference is that we would be using code to do the action, the animation that's in the middle here, and we'd still have the same structure of the animations inside the characters to run those different sections. And that's pretty much it for this tutorial. In the next one, we're going to finish our code for the opening of our movie and the end of our movie and add some sounds, and then we'll be done with the Pong game tutorials. Thanks.